Are you constantly running on fumes? Today, I'm going to show you how exhaustion has serious consequences on your decision making and then what you can do about it. Because if you're exhausted, you're not your best at work. Let's go. Welcome to the Ken Coleman Show, where we help you win at work so that you're winning in your life. A recent survey claimed that the average American only wakes up feeling rested 3 days a week. And you can find survey after survey after survey on the value of sleep, how little people are getting, how much you need. It's all over the place. And we know inherently, nobody has to tell us. I didn't break any news today in saying that exhaustion is not good for you in your work life or your personal life. We know this. And yet we do a little bit about it. Saw an article from Health News diving into this topic because I want to focus our time on this exhaustion issue of how much work plays into this. And then how does it affect us at work if it's a non-work related source of exhaustion? Maybe it's something going on in your personal life, physical life. So I want to look at this because optimal performance in your work, in your professional journey, has a lot to do with your rest, your energy, the sleep that you get. Exhaustion has serious consequences on your decision-making skills. How many of you have ever made a really boneheaded decision, largely because you were exhausted? I was sitting there thinking, I can't remember a business decision that I've made that was just really, really detrimental because I was tired. But I can think of multiple situations in my life on a personal level where just being so mentally tired, it can really affect your cognitive abilities. And I'll never forget, it was about 4 or 5 months ago. I had been going pretty hard and not been feeling well, and then had a very busy professional schedule, and just was really, really tired. Just going at it mentally, I'd been exerting a lot of energy, and then I was physically tired as well. I was dealing with some physical neck pain, and I wasn't sleeping well. And we brought some friends of ours to one of our favorite restaurants, a really fancy restaurant here in the area, and really proud of it. And I had been there several times and had built a relationship with a sommelier because they have a wonderful wine cellar, and I wanted to treat our friends, and he was going to do a great experience. And I'd been several times, like I said, and we showed up that night, and I said hi to him like I normally did, say, hey, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? And I was referring to him by name, but I remember this particular night that every time I would talk to him, he was just a little off. And I thought to myself, wonder what's going on with him. He seems a little off. Well, his name, by the way, is Max. But I wasn't calling him Max. I mean, no less than, my wife said, you must have, she was trying to get my attention. She said no less than 10 times in interacting with him, you didn't call him Max. I don't even remember what I called him. I was so embarrassed when she finally revealed it to me, and I was so brain dead, and I'm just carrying on, and I forget what I was calling him, but let's say that I was calling him Zach. I think that's what I was calling him. Zach this, Zach that. Guys, look at him. He's trying to be polite. And I'm just looking him in the eye. Zach this, all this Zach. Let me meet Zach. Zach's a stud. Zach's going to take us on a tour. His name is Max, you bonehead. Well, I was so embarrassed when my wife finally told me. I pulled him aside. I said, hey, Max, my wife just made me aware that for 30, 40 minutes throughout our conversations, I've been calling you Zach, and your name is not Zach, and I know your name is not Zach. I am so sorry. My brain is fried. And I just knew that I was tired. I wasn't sharp, and my recall was bad. It's just that simple. And I wasn't sharp. That's just a fun little story. But I read an article from Health News about our cognitive function. There's several issues that I pulled. I wanted to do some deep dive on this. I'm not a sleep expert, but I wanted to dive in and set the problem with being so exhausted mentally, emotionally, and then physically because many times it goes in that order, what it does. Well, let's look at reduced cognitive function. You process information slower. You react slower. My restaurant example is a classic example. I don't know what the heck I was talking about. After only 24 hours without sleep, your brain is comparable to the cognitive impairment of someone with a blood alcohol content of 0.1%. Poor focus. Your attention span is shorter. So attention to details, deadlines, listening, speaking clearly. All of that requires the brain to be operating at a high level. And when you are essentially tipsy to drunk, and we all, well, some of us, know how we slow down in that situation. Hello? Who wants to be that way in the office? You would never suggest to somebody they come into the office tipsy or try to get through the workday drunk. It's insane. And yet, that's what many of us are doing. Because it compounds. 2 or 3 nights in a row with really bad sleep starts to really compound and hurt our cognitive function. Impaired memory, difficult to recall info, hard to make new memories. Impulsivity, fatigue increases your willingness to take risk with a focus on short-term gains. How about impulsivity as it relates to our emotions? Emotional irritability, mood swings, stress, anxiety. Let me tell you something. I can point back to times in my life where I've gotten triggered easily and I was very tired, physically, or I was emotionally exhausted. And when we talk about exhaustion here, I think it's important that we look at mental exhaustion, where you've been exerting a lot of mental focus for a long time. That's you can get exhausted mentally. And how about emotional? You're just gritting through it. You're in a job you don't enjoy, or you're in a toxic environment, or in your personal life, you're just hanging on. The whole grin and bear it, biting the stick. That takes a lot of mental and emotional toll on us, and that has a physical toll. So many times, the stuff you're dealing with in your relationship life or in your work life can have a tremendous impact on your physical life. How about stunted creativity? Even one night of sleep loss can hurt your ability to think creatively. Maybe I didn't sleep well last night all of a sudden. Hello. And update your thinking so that you are pivoting quickly throughout your day. When you're exhausted, it is the real feeling of being sluggish. And listen, when you're just dragging through mentally, physically throughout the day, you're not at your best. I would tell you, if you're in a highly strategic role or a highly creative role, exhaustion can break you down pretty quickly, and people will begin to wonder what's going on. I was recently in a meeting, was not feeling well about a month ago, and I came into the office, and I'll never forget, it was after the show, so I was already physically tired, mentally tired, and I was in a meeting. It was about 2:30 in the afternoon, and my brand leader, Damon, looked at me and went, "Hey, you need to go home." He goes, "You're just not sharp. You're just struggling, sluggish." I went home, took a nap. 20-minute nap, got right back at it. It was unbelievable. Finished out the day, answered some emails, was sharp. It's real, folks. So, what are some things we can do to overcome this exhaustion? I'll tell you next.
Do you know what you were born to do? In order to get hired at a job you love, you need to get clear on your talent, passion, and mission. That's why our team created the Career Clarity Guide. In just a few minutes, this free tool will walk you through a process to discover what you do best, that's your talent, the work you love to do, that's your passion, and the results that matter to you, your mission. Then you'll feel more confident throughout the job search process. To get started, go to kencoleman.com/clarity.
If you're enjoying the show on YouTube, thank you very much. I would love your support to help us grow. We're growing, and that's because of you. Subscribe, like the video that you're watching, and then share with somebody that you think it will encourage. And then same thing on your favorite podcast app if you're listening to us there. Give us a follow, and a 5-star review and share as well. I would be grateful. So now that we understand the importance of not being exhausted and fighting exhaustion so that we're winning at work, what do we do? What do we do to make sure that we're keeping it at bay? So the first thing is you need an actual plan. I wouldn't just, go at this lighthearted. I would really do some homework, read a book on sleep. I'll give you some things that I've learned by interviewing sleep experts. But you need a plan that works for you, a routine so that your body, after you get yourself in a situation where it's optimal for sleep, but now your body adjusts to it. So you need a plan. I think you need to be consistent on what time you go to bed to the best of your ability. And you're going to have some times where you can't keep the schedule. But I think you need a specific set time. And then I think you need a routine leading up to that time. So all the experts that I have talked to and interviewed, no devices, no screens, 2 hours before bedtime. So if you go to bed at 10, at 8 o'clock, no more screens. Okay? No caffeine, after lunch, or no caffeine at all. Some of you are freaking out right now. I love my coffee. I have 2 or 3 cups a day, but I don't drink any caffeine after lunch. Very, very rare. And then, are you reading? Are you exercising? You taking a warm bath? What'll get you sleepy? I'll tell you what my wife did for me on the holiday, Christmas time, in my stocking. She gave me a bag of Epsom salts, and I thought, good grief, am I that old? She says, no, you smell it. So I looked on the bag, I'm thinking to myself, Nathan, why do I need Epsom salts? I'm not an old man yet. So I look, and it's eucalyptus, and it smells fantastic, and it's a relaxing agent. So I've been known to take a hot bath before bed, very calming, and then make sure the room is cool, the room is dark, if you need some type of noise, make sure it's a healthy noise, like a brown noise or a fan that's mild, whatever it is, you got to come up with your routine that works for you, and that's your plan. Now, what happens if life gets crazy, and it will, and you get outside of the plan? What do? I think it's okay for you to say, the last 2 or 3 days have been crazy because of this, this, and this. And I want to postpone this meeting. I want to reschedule this meeting. Or I want to push this deadline to where I'm at my best. But see, we have a hard time doing that. And I understand there are times where that may not be possible. But I would suggest to you that I think it's a lot more possible than we think. Say, hey, I need a down day. I was talking to one of the leaders here at Ramsey Solutions recently that said, I got to be better at this. I go hard. I go fast. And listen, I'm not looking for a pat on the back here, but Joe and I have worked together now for a very, very long time. He'll tell you, I go sometimes when I'm really, really sick. And I'm not looking for an award, but how many times, Joe, have I gotten a shot just to be able to speak on the air?
You've done it a bunch.
A lot. I'm old school. It's not that I'm patting myself on the back. I just believe that you show up and you play hurt sometimes. But I can also tell you that I now realize that if you play hurt enough, then that begins to wear you down because of exhaustion. And so sometimes you just got to go, you know what, I can't go today. I love coming in and doing the show. It's hard to get these professional athletes off the court or off the field. They love playing. Sometimes you got to go, I can't go today. You got to do that. I also think that there is a perceived weakness in sharing that we're really tired. I think there's a perceived weakness in slowing down and saying, you know what? I need to rest my mind. The data is interesting. I didn't pull it for today's show, but it just occurred to me. I've seen a lot of data about American workers. You can look this up on your own. How many of them don't use all their vacation time? But I don't want to get locked into too much focus on vacation time because many times vacation time is nothing more than a Band-Aid. But overall rest is important. Mental rest. I'm going all the time mentally. So it's really important for me in my weeknights and weekends that I'm resting my brain. Science says that downtime is our superpower when it comes to creative decision making. An examination of MRI scans revealed that even when you're not deliberately working on a task, your brain is still firing at 20%. That means your brain is just kind of gathering, filtering. Ferris Jaber with the Scientific American said downtime is an opportunity for the brain to make sense of what it has already learned. That's why I will tell you that for years I've come up with some of my best ideas doing yard work because I'm just kind of going through the motions. I'm not exerting my brain. It's just kind of on autopilot at that 20%, if you will. But it is now pulling from all this other stuff that's in my head. Now, here's what downtime isn't. It isn't watching TV or scrolling social media because you think that's downtime, but your brain is actually fully engaged in a story or in the scrolling. The downtime is, behind the wheel of the car, yard work, walking, and just turning everything else off and letting your brain do its own thing. So most people don't realize this. Some of you right now are dealing with what I would call some creative blockers. You feel like you're going all the time. And I will tell you something, and I have practiced this. I've touched on this a little bit, but I've practiced this myself. When I feel like I'm stuck on an idea, come over the book title or maybe come over the product thing or something like that, and I'm really thinking through stuff, I have to get away and get quiet. I don't mean on a vacation. I just have to get out of the office, and I got to go somewhere where it's really quiet. No phones, no devices, and just be. There's a spot in my neighborhood that I go to a lot, and there's a spot at my house. In the neighborhood, it's a spot that is a beautiful little pond in the neighborhood. It's got a weeping willow tree that hangs over, and it's in the shade. And I like to take this little chair from the Masters, those little tiny chairs, and I'll just sit there. And there's bullfrogs making noises. There's birds. There's the occasional rabbit or squirrel, the occasional car going by. But I don't look at my phone, and I just sit there. Now, I've got this thing I'm trying to get some breakthrough on. I've got this idea that I've lodged in my head, and I'm trying to get something on it, and I'll reset it, and I'm sitting there thinking about it, but then I'll just stop thinking about it altogether. And I do this all the time. And once I stop trying to think about it, and I just get present in the moment, and I just begin to let my brain go, oh, there's a squirrel. Oh, there's a rabbit. Oh, a fish just jumped up. What am I smelling? Look at those plants over there. Oh, look at that house across the street. And I just begin to let my brain be. Now, it's back to that 20%. When you're not actively engaged, your brain is still operating at 20%. But now what is it doing? It's slowly rebooting, and it's beginning to act like those Google search engine crawlers that crawl the internet, and they pull this. This is what ChatGPT uses. And so I go back to previous meetings, conversations, thoughts, and ideas come to me. And this just happened to me 2 weeks ago. I can't even tell you what the idea is. I'm so excited, but I can't tell you. But I was really stuck. Several different ideas, couldn't figure out which one do I want to go with. Do I meld them together? Is it a completely different idea? And I just didn't have any peace about it. And I went to my spot. And when I went to my spot, 5-10 minutes or so, just started popping. And I didn't leave. I didn't do anything with it right away. I just sat there. And I let the brain keep going and keep going and keep going. And then I finally said, all right, I got to do a voice memo and get these ideas down. Now, that's a form of rest. Resting the brain that way. But resting your body. Rest your body. Rest your brain. And when you rest your body and you rest your brain, here's what I know. They are incredible machines, the body and the brain, and they'll serve you well. All you got to do is take care of your brain. Take care of your body. Watch your creativity and your career take off.
Are you wondering if you should leave your current job or stay put? You're not alone. That's why we created the Should I Quit My Job quiz. In just 5 minutes or less, this quiz will help you determine if you're at the right company and if you're in the right role. If you need to make a move, you'll even get practical next steps to keep you moving forward. Listen, stuck is a choice, and life is too short not to do what you were created to do. To take the quiz, go to kencoleman.com/quiz.
Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Executives not inclined to remove humans from AI decision making. This is a new Workday survey. 93% of business leaders believe it's important for humans to have oversight of AI or machine learning when making significant decisions. Great. I'd like to talk to the 7% who think it's fine just to, have no oversight at all. Because as it relates to AI cannot perform without human input. It can't. It has to have human input. Then AI can enhance. But it has to have human input. Now, as it relates to the oversight side of things, I don't know how anybody would think that AI needs no oversight. It's a jungle out there, and I think the big stories are still yet to hit. I can't predict specifically what they're going to be, but there's still going to be some big bombshell stories coming out. And I think that we're just scratching the surface of how this can be abused and how it can be used in a positive way. So the greatest high-level organizational risk of implementing AI as identified by these executives are data security and privacy, concerns on accountability, inability to measure the ROI, and decision-making errors. 77% of executives are concerned about timeliness or reliability of the underlying data that will potentially feed their AI systems. So what they're saying is can we be nimble enough to feed it to where it can be effective, or do we just rely on our existing systems? 73% of business leaders are feeling pressure to implement AI at their organizations, but the vast majority are aware of giving up too much decision-making power. Good for you, leaders. I would hold the line on this. Now, if you look at data security and privacy, they're concerned that there will be holes in it. Can AI hack AI? Accountability, absolutely is huge. Can some bad actors come in here and do some really, really unethical, pirate-type things? Absolutely. Now, the inability to measure ROI, I think that's going to come down to systems. And then decision-making errors are absolutely there. Now, here's the deal. We shared a story on this decision-making error of AI recently where a lawyer got fired for having ChatGPT write a brief and pulled inaccurate information in its desire to give information. So I think lawyers love ChatGPT. We've talked about it on the show. 3/4 of the executives said their organization lacks the skills to fully implement AI. So they're going, okay, I don't think we got the right people on the bus to help us leverage this the right way. And I think they're right. AI learning and leveraging talent with AI is going to be an absolute must for companies moving forward. 76% said their own knowledge of AI needs improvement. Come on. It's like trying to get your parents to use FaceTime for the first time. It's a complete disaster. They don't know what they're doing. It's brand new. So there needs to be some understanding of AI as well. Now, I share this to say this is a good sign that our business leaders are saying, you know what? This needs some time. It needs some oversight. It needs some responsibility, some accountability. We need to test this stuff. It's very, very important. But AI is here to stay. Make no mistake about it. But some companies are going, nope, not interested. This headline from the Wall Street Journal, companies are banning ChatGPT, including JP Morgan Chase, Verizon, have blocked access to ChatGPT. Others are encouraging alternatives. Amazon essentially has their own, and so they want people using theirs, of course. There are concerns about privacy and trade secrets throughout a lot of industries. And when you see big companies like Verizon and JP Morgan Chase going, nope, not using it. There's a couple things going on there. I think they're absolutely worried about privacy and trade secrets. I also think they're worried about liability. That's the dirty little secret. ChatGPT is so new, and there's so many ways to use it, but there's also so many ways to get abused by it and abuse others with it that I think a lot of companies are going, you know what? We're not going to be the first ones to be dragged into court and have to do a multi-$100 million settlement, blah, 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 blah. And so they're going, you know what? We don't understand it. We don't know how it's going to be used. The implications are absolutely terrifying and making ourselves liable legally. You're going to see a lot of companies do this. So I think it's fear-based. And by the way, a healthy dose of fear on this is really good. Safe than sorry is the phrase that comes to mind here with this policy. More than 40% of nearly 12,000 workers that were surveyed said they use ChatGPT or other AI tools at work. Half said they use ChatGPT for tasks such as writing and responding to emails. I haven't tried that yet. I might be more active on email, guys, if I could use ChatGPT to write an email. But again, what kind of email are you writing that you need ChatGPT for? Most of my emails are like, okay, good, sounds great, thanks. If you're writing policy emails, you better be careful, like that lawyer got fired. It looks really simple. Hey, ChatGPT, give me write me a brief on such and such a case that was blah, 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 blah. And ChatGPT gets a bunch of fake information. It gave fake case information. The lawyer lost their job. It's not worth it. Here's the deal. At its face, if you use ChatGPT, and I've been messing around with it, but I haven't published anything. I knew that was the next question. But I'll tell you this, if you're going to use it for information, you better edit it. Don't just take it face value. It's an oopsie at the least. It's a oh crap at the worst. Now, roughly 25% of worker surveys said they feared a manager would look down their nose at them if they knew they use ChatGPT. Others thought that their bosses would praise them for finding ways to speed up work. I think it's the latter. I think as long as there's no plagiarism and no exposure, most bosses will be like, fine, you got the job done. How'd you do it? Can I use it? That's what I think they're going to say. Here's an interesting story I want to share with you on this. In this article, this Wall Street Journal article, Robert Bai is 31. He lives in Orlando, Florida. Says he has integrated the tool into his workflow, and he's very careful not to share confidential information on the platform. He said he has asked ChatGPT to pretend it held his job at a tech company without naming the name of the company, Figma, in the query. And then he asked ChatGPT to share a 10-point vision statement based on draft thoughts that he plugged in. And so this is fascinating. He gives ChatGPT 10, let's call it bullet points. And then he says, now draft me a vision statement based on this. And this is how the human and the AI should work together. So it's his thoughts. He plugs it in and he says, expand on it. Fascinating. So he also asked it to rewrite drafts to sound more informative, colloquial, concise, emotive, or aspirational. And then he edits anything that the AI-generated text gives him. Now, why am I sharing this story? That in and of itself is not interesting. Well, Mr. Bai is dyslexic. He says writing takes him hours and ChatGPT makes him more efficient. He uses it often enough that it's bookmarked. He says, I spend more time on stuff that I'm good at, which isn't written language. And this is why I like ChatGPT. For some of you who would say, you know, I have a known weakness in the area of verbal skills. My writing is not good, or I'm okay, but I don't enjoy it. It tends to suck the energy out of it. So this is about talent and passion. If you don't have the talent or the passion for writing or developing content, ChatGPT is a wonderful tool. Again, if you have the discipline to edit it and do your homework and make sure that it's quality work, that you don't get burned by it. And if you don't get burned by it, it's great. So, 2 ChatGPT articles to simply drive this home. AI is here to stay in the workplace. If you ignore it, I think you do so at your own peril. You need to know how to function with it. So download it. Play around with it. Start using it. Use it wisely, and I think you're going to be okay. But to ignore it, to stick your head in the sand, that goes for leaders and workers, I think will do you a disservice.
Did you know that recruiters take an average of 6 seconds to scan a resume? And that's if they ever see it in the first place. In fact, 75% of resumes are rejected before reaching a hiring manager. Listen, folks, if you want to get hired, you've got to make your resume worth noticing. That's why we created How to Write the Perfect Resume. This free guide will walk you through the 5 steps to stand out in the hiring process to get you your dream job. If you want to get started, go to kencoleman.com/resume.
Breaking news. You don't need a college degree for every job. Tell me something I don't know. Tell me something I haven't been saying since the inception of the Ken Coleman Show. Fox News editorial piece here from Preston Cooper that I want to hit on some things here. And I share this because, again, the playing field is being leveled. For those of you who don't have a degree, or you have a degree that you don't want to use, you don't want to be in that field, and you're thinking, ugh, I got to get a good degree. Maybe not. Chances are you won't. The leveling of the playing field is a good thing for the American worker, and it's moving faster than you think, but we are in a culture that has told you your entire life. If you're listening to me, for most of you, for your entire life, the American culture has told you that you need a degree to be successful, and it's just total garbage. 11 states led by some reform-minded governors. This is great news. This is good governorship here. Have announced they will remove college degree requirements from most jobs in the state executive branch. So now these governors are putting their money where their mouth is. Going, look, to work for the state government in the executive branch, you don't need a degree. That's fantastic. That brings in a lot of people, good people, talented people, well qualified outside of that piece of paper and all the time and money spent, sometimes borrowed. They're ready to go. And this is fantastic. The last several decades, college degree requirements for jobs skyrocketed. And they weren't really needed. It wasn't about qualifications. It was about status. Well, you know, we're going to winnow down the field to the best and brightest, and the best and brightest are those that got a college degree, which is total crap. And then the pandemic comes along, and the world at work shifts below our feet, and now corporations are going, we need people, but we can't get them like we used to get them. And when we do get them with a degree, they're no more ready to do the job than the people who don't have the degree. Sometimes less ready. And so companies started wising up. This includes 11 state governments. The phenomenon of the requirement of a college degree has been known as degree inflation. One study shows that between 2007 and 2019, the share of job postings requesting 4-year degrees rose more than 60%. So that 12-year period, it was like, hey, monkey see, monkey do. We got to have a degree requirement because everybody else does. And there was some marketing going on. The government was behind it. This was a game, folks. And many of you lost. Around 4 in 10 recent college grads work in positions that haven't traditionally required a college degree. So this is good news, this change. Why? Well, let's play this out. If you continue on the path that we were on from 2007 to 2019, you would eventually get to a place where the number of college graduates would outnumber the jobs that require a degree. And then you're back to square one. But you have a degree, and you probably have some student loan debt. Think about it. Think about this for a second. Wake up. Wake up. In 1990, just 38% of prime-age workers earning between $60,000 and $80,000 per year had a bachelor's degree. Today, the proportion is 52%. Around 4 in 10 recent college graduates work in jobs that have not traditionally required a college degree. College graduates in a non-college job earn more than $10,000 less than their peers. So let me just make sure you hear that. College grad, working in a job that doesn't require a college degree, and their counterparts in the office or in the plant or wherever they are who don't have a college degree are making more than $10,000 more than they are. So did it pay off? The answer is a resounding no. So what do companies do about this? What should companies do? Where should we be in the American workforce? I think today it's just remove college requirements altogether, unless again it is in a system where you've got your whole foundation is law and medical. Other than that, train them on the job. Companies that create their own training programs are going to be able to recruit the people they want and train the people they need.
According to Glassdoor, the average job offer attracts over 250 applicants. If you've made it to the interview, you've already made a great impression. So now is the time to showcase how you are the best choice for the role. That's why we created How to Win the Interview. This free guide will walk you through the 5 strategies to help you stand out amongst the competition. With just some intentionality, you can prepare yourself to win the interview. Go to kencoleman.com/interview.
Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. You were created to fill a unique role in your work. That means you are needed and it means you must do it. But how do you figure out what that role is? Is there a sweet spot for you that allows you to move professionally and always know, this is the right seat on the bus, or this is the seat on the bus that I need to get to? It's possible. And I created a tool to make it easier to do. It's called the Get Clear Assessment. It measures 3 elements of you: talent, that's what you do best; passion, work you love; and mission, results that matter deeply to you. When I use what I do best to do what I love to produce results that matter to me, I'm in my sweet spot. I'm on purpose. I'm on the right seat of the bus. And watch what happens. The money happens as I need it to, and it's enough, no matter what that is. And more importantly, the meaning shows up. Money and meaning, enough of it. And you walk through life and you look back and you don't regret the choices you made. You can work and do work that you enjoy and be taken care of while you do it. The first part, the Get Clear Assessment helps you with. It becomes your compass. It becomes that ultimate job description that you filter everything through. Go get it right now at kencoleman.com/assessment, kencoleman.com/assessment. All right, Alyssa is joining us in Atlanta, Georgia. Alyssa, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi, Ken. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
You bet, Alyssa. What's going on?
I guess I'll just jump right in. So I am 24. I've been married for 2 years, and I currently work as a nanny, but this is not what I want to be doing with my life. Since I was 6 years old, I have been writing music, and I've wanted to be a musician. And I have pursued that all the way up through college, but I didn't finish my degree. And in 2019, I stopped writing music. I stopped pursuing it. And the passion for that has not gone away. So my question is it realistic for me to pursue that as a career? Would it be something that I could make money from, or is it more of something that I should just do as a hobby?
Well, it's realistic for you to pursue it. I don't know if it's realistic for you to make really good money. I don't know. And to some degree, maybe even you don't know. We never know how it's going to work out. But is it realistic for you to pursue it at 24, being married, no kids, I'm guessing? Yeah? I think it's absolutely realistic. The question is, what do you want to pursue? What's the mountaintop? And if we don't make it up the mountain, what's along the way that would still be pretty amazing? And I think that's the mindset you have to have. So let's just dream. I don't want you to be ashamed of this. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. But what do you want? What did you always want to do? What would have been the, oh my gosh, dream come true around music for you? What would it be?
Probably writing my own worship music and being a worship pastor who travels.
Okay. I don't think that is in any way a crazy pursuit. I think that is a worthy pursuit. All right, so let's just play this out. That example you just gave me, let's play it out. So you start writing worship music again. You maybe brush up some of your old stuff. You start leading worship, because that's the first thing we need to start doing. Even if you're volunteering, you've got to start getting up and leading worship in churches, youth camps, anywhere where they need someone to lead worship. You need to be volunteering in your area. Okay, that's step number one. We'll come back to that in a minute. Well, let's say we play this out. And let's say you go after it and you write some songs and you play them in churches and everything like that, but you never get a publishing deal and you never travel as a well-known worship leader, but you are a worship leader. I would call that, we didn't get all the way up the mountain, but we're on the mountain. And would that not be meaningful to you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Of course. So I think it's absolutely realistic that you pursue that, and I think you need to pursue it with everything you got, because the fallback is pretty amazing. So the question is, why'd you stop writing in 2019?
I really just stopped believing in myself. So I have a gift where I hear music in my sleep, and before I knew, I still don't know how to play piano, but I would hear piano melodies that I knew that I was supposed to write, and I just got really discouraged, and I stopped trying to learn how to play. And I don't have those anymore. Now I have dreams of songs, of lyrics that I'm supposed to write, and I'll wake up and I'll hear it and I'll record it, and then I never do anything with it, and I've kind of made it about me.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of just became selfish along the way.
Maybe a touch of selfishness, but in a way of protecting yourself. I think you're protecting yourself from rejection.
I think you're absolutely right.
I took a guess there. What makes me right? What has happened to where I was able to feel that or guess that? What happened?
I went to college to be a worship pastor, and I interned 3 years under our pastor, and we just didn't have a great relationship, and I ended up doing a lot of behavioral modification and people-pleasing to try to prove myself worthy to these leaders, but it never seemed like what I did was enough, and so I didn't really get the opportunities that I was working so hard for.
Yeah.
And I was told that I was prideful too, so I ended up just hiding myself away because I thought that they were right. I thought that I was being prideful.
When you look back on it now, do you think that's true or false?
I think that's very false.
Yeah. Yeah, here's what happens. When we try to please other people, we are trying to quiet the voice in our head that says we aren't enough. They don't think I'm enough, so I need to show them enough. But that's how we act. But what's really going on is we're trying to give evidence to that person that we're enough so that we believe we're enough. Isn't that the weird thing about that?
Yeah.
I'm trying to make you think I'm enough so that I think I'm enough. Yeah. And what we ought to be doing is going, wait a second, am I enough? And the answer is yes. So they don't think I'm enough. No big deal. I'm enough. I move on. And I think that's what's happened to you. And I understand that. I went through that. I had a guy in radio tell me that I didn't have enough talent to make it in Atlanta. You know, this city's too big. It's this market, this media market's too big for you, Ken. And I believed him for a while. And I think what happens is when that becomes the narrative in our head that we're not enough, then we begin to protect ourselves. And the only way to protect ourselves is to remove this thing that our heart keeps going, do it, do it.
I would agree with that. You said that, the media market was too big, and that's kind of the thing that I've told myself is, well, everybody wants to be a musician. Everybody wants to be a worship leader or independent artist. Why would you have what it takes to make it?
Well, here's the deal. We don't know if you have what it takes to make it at that traveling level. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think along the way, we find out. We figure that out. One way or the other, I think you'll figure out. No, I don't. That's not my thing. For instance, if I go play golf with better golfers, it doesn't take me more than about 2 holes to realize I'll never be as good as that guy. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that I can't enjoy golf. And so I think right now you need to go for it. So it starts with 2 things. 2 things on the homework assignment for you. Number 1, you need to start writing again. And you need to start sharing those songs with people. Not your husband, not your mom and dad. You can do that. But you need to start playing those songs. It's just like me.
Okay.
It's like me trying to write a book or come up with a talk. I got to test it and see if people respond to it. And so write and then lead. Lead and write. Find somewhere to lead worship and start leading. Get in rotation. If it's only once a month right now, get once a month. Start writing worship songs and share the songs. And don't stop. Don't ever stop again, because here's what I know. If you never make it as a published worship leader or a traveling worship leader, there will always be churches that need someone to lead worship, number 1. And that's a ministry, not a hobby. Number 2, it's who you are. They're coming to you in your sleep. You got to be you. The world needs it. This is the Ken Coleman Show. Press on.
Thanks for listening to the Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.